which dog breaks a fast and which dog does not. All right, now that I've got your attention, what I really do want to talk about today is what actually breaks a fast and what doesn't. So many people have asked the awesome questions about specific foods breaking a fast or not breaking a fast, so I figured, what the heck, why don't I just lay it out for you? So I'm going to list out foods that are fasting safe, or should I say drinks and things that are fasting safe, but then I'm going to list out things that are no-gos, things that will definitely break a fast. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the science too. Then I'm going to talk about the gray area. And what I mean by gray area is there are going to be things that may or may not break a fast. It's still undecided. The jury is still out. I'll give you my honest opinion on it so you can take it for what it's worth. But first off, let's go ahead and let's talk about a couple of things that are good to go while you're fasting. First and foremost, we know that good old-fashioned H2O is good to go. Unless you're doing a dry fast, water's not going to cause a problem. You're good to go. Kind of an obvious one. Okay, the next one I want to talk about, green tea. Very powerful, the epigallocatechin 3-galate, that EGCG, is really powerful, allows your body to mobilize fats quite a bit better, so it's a very good thing to be drinking while you're fasting. Then we've got coffee, of course. Coffee will not break a fast as long as it's black. Totally good to go, okay? Again, the caffeine, mobilizing fatty acids, you're good there. It's going to help expedite the process of fasting. It's going to help expedite glycogen removal, or should I say storage, so that the carbs and the glycogen, the glucose, isn't in your bloodstream anymore, it goes into the muscles. We definitely want that. So that's powerful. Okay, so here's a kind of a weird one. Going to be most teas, black, green, or whatever, but I have to say this now, certain herbal teas with fruit. Okay, you see some herbal teas out there, they have little chunks of apple, they have little chunks of berries that are dehydrated. You're getting the fructose from those fruits, so I would highly recommend staying away from those. Okay, that's a no-go. So then back to the fasting safe. Okay, now we've got different sodas that I want to talk about. Okay, Stevia for one, I've talked about this in a video. That's a soda that's sweetened with stevia, so you're good to go there. Okay, and as much as I hate to say this, I'm going to go on the record by saying I don't think that aspartame is good. I don't think it's healthy, but a lot of people ask. Diet Coke, diet sodas, you're going to be okay. Aspartame doesn't technically break a fast, so you're okay there. I just don't think it's the best thing to do, but I know that a lot of you are wondering that, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Okay, now, when we look at any kind of carbonated beverage, you're usually good to go. So I'm just going to say carbonated water, carbonated H2O, so sparkling beverages, things like that. Okay, people also always ask about vaping because there's oil and you're ingesting the vape. Does vaping break a fast? Generally, no, you're not swallowing the oil, you're inhaling it. Now, what I will say is that vape, the nicotine that is usually in vape, just like smoking, affects your electron transport change. It affects NADH. That's why you get a high from it. That's why you get a buzz. The jury is still a little bit out on whether or not nicotine technically would constitute breaking a fast, but for the sake of the metabolic function of a fast, you're okay. Okay, I'm going to leave this here for now. There might be one or two more that I add, but I want to start going over the things that will break a fast, okay? So I already talked about herbal teas that have fruit in them. Okay, now the big one, guys, MCT oil, okay, and powder. I love that stuff, and it's great for keto, but it does break a fast, okay? There's still 8 calories per gram. Unlike most fats that are 9 calories per gram, MCTs only have 8. It's a little bit different. They still are digested. They still elicit a metabolic response. It's still food. It's still calories. If you have a couple tablespoons of MCT oil, you're still looking at a couple hundred calories. That's definitely not fasting, okay? So MCT oil does, okay? So does coconut oil. Same kind of thing, okay? You gotta be careful there. The other thing we have to look at are any kind of creamers. That will break a fast, okay? So if we add creamers to our coffee, whether it's half and half, whether it's cream, whether it's a sugar-free creamer, anything like that, the powdered creamers, those all break a fast as well, okay? Which leads me into Bulletproof Coffee, okay? People ask me all the time, is Bulletproof Coffee going to break a fast? Yes, Bulletproof Coffee still breaks a fast. It's still metabolic. It still has an effect. In fact, it has MCT, it has butter, it has ghee, it has all these things that break a fast. Okay, so definitely a no-go. You can do a specific bulletproof fast, but that's different. That's not a traditional fast. Okay, then we have to look at one that I talk about all the time, and that's bone broth. I love bone broth, but it breaks a fast, okay? We want to use bone broth when we are breaking our fast. It does not work while you are fasting, okay? There's still calories in it. There's still some fat in it. There's still collagen in it, which is a protein that has to be metabolized. So it still has to be broken down in the body. BCAAs, yes, your branch chain amino acids. Those BCAAs do cause an insulin spike. The leucine in them has been shown in multiple studies to cause a massive secretion of insulin. I shouldn't say massive, but significant enough to kick you out of a fast. It is still a protein. It's the primary amino acid that is involved in the anabolic functions of the body. So we don't want those BCAAs. But on that note, you're okay to have things like creatine. You can have things like NO2. You can have beta-alanine, which is in a lot of pre-workouts, but I'm going to give you some notes on pre-workouts in a minute. Okay? Here's the thing. Creatine doesn't have a metabolic effect in the body. Okay, all it is something that's going to help you create more ATP in the body. So you're good there. Okay, but the BCAAs, they will kick you out. Another thing you're okay to have is glutamine. Okay. Okay, now when we go back to the no-gos, there's obvious things. Okay, we're going to have any sweeteners. I would highly recommend avoiding Truvia, the erythritol. So I'm going to say just erythritol right here. Erythritol is a sugar alcohol, which means it still has an actual metabolic function in the body. So it's hard to break down, but it still will break a fast. So Truvia is a little bit tougher. I recommend going full-blown Stevia. So let's talk about that. So Stevia, since I already mentioned Zevia was good to go, we're okay with Stevia. And some people will negate this, but quite honestly, sucralose seems to be okay too. Again, not the biggest fan of everyone just loading up on sucralose, but for all intents and purposes, generally it's okay. All right, now I want to talk about the gray area a little bit. Okay, and if any other questions come up on things that you think might break a fast, you can always put them in the comment section down below. Okay, so the gray area, I'm going to give you some insight on these too. Okay, one that you might be wondering is apple cider vinegar. Why? Because I talk about it all the time. My personal take on it is that it does not break a fast, and here's why. The metabolic benefits that come from the apple cider vinegar far supersede any potential negative break of the fast. I really firmly believe that. If you were to get down to a microscopic level and really look at it, yes, there's like 1 calorie in apple cider vinegar. So sure, I guess you could argue that it does break a fast if you're being very aggressive. But the acetic acid and what it does for your body and what it does to glucose transporters by stopping your body's ability to process glucose, I would argue helps you get into a deeper fasted state faster than if you didn't have it. Even though there's a calorie, I think that 1 step back sends you 7 steps forward, okay? Okay, the other one is going to be lemon juice. Okay, so lemon juice. So a lot of you may notice that in some of my drink recipes and everything like that, I'll put a small amount of lemon juice in them sometimes. Same kind of thing as the apple cider vinegar. Gray area. Some people will say, yes, lemon juice would break a fast. But we're talking a half a tablespoon or a tablespoon of lemon juice first thing in the morning with your apple cider vinegar. I would argue that it's okay. It doesn't have an insulin response. You're probably fine. But again, if you ask a specific fasting protocol expert, like someone that really thinks that fasting needs to be just totally abstaining from everything, they will probably tell you that lemon juice is a no-go. But in my book, I think it's okay. Okay, so some of these gray areas that we want to look at are pre-workouts. They're not all created equal. So what you want to look at when you're looking at a pre-workout is, first of all, what's the carb count? If it has a gram of carbohydrates in it, then it's definitely going to cause a little bit of an insulin spike. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll put maltodextrin in these pre-workouts. That will break a fast, okay? Maltodextrin definitely does. It's a filler. Dextrose will break a fast. So you have to look at your pre-workout. You're best off to just kind of play it safe and have something like a pre-workout that's just got beta-alanine, maybe some caffeine, maybe some arginine to help the blood flow, stuff like that. Very simple. Simple is best, okay? Then it brings up another one that would technically be a no-go. And some of these are popping in my mind as I'm doing this here, okay? And that's gonna be exogenous ketones. But yes, exogenous ketones are terrific when you're in ketosis, and they're terrific for breaking fasts sometimes, but they will break a fast, okay? So I love them, and I think that they have a place, but not when you're fasting, unless you're doing a specific exogenous ketone fast where you want to implement those into the picture, okay? So then we go back here. So we already talked about pre-workouts, okay? Now, this may seem like an obvious one, but people ask still quite a bit. Protein powders, yes, those will break a fast. That's still a food. And these are really the major gray area ones. Okay, I know that there might be some other ones that people bring up. So another one that I'm going to add to the gray area column, simply because I kind of touched on it a little bit when I talked about vaping, was nicotine in general. I'm still going to add here, even though I put vaping, okay, because sometimes people just vape just for the flavor, or they vape just because they like the feeling. But when we're looking at the nicotine, we still have to think about how that might affect the metabolism. But that brings up kind of a good question that's been coming up a lot too, is marijuana, does that break a fast? So if you're smoking marijuana, then no, technically it's not going to break a fast, although I will argue that it could slow down your metabolism during that point in time. The other thing you have to be cognizant of is, well, we have to be honest, it's going to make you hungry, and that's going to make fasting a little bit more difficult. CBD oil would break a fast, okay? So you'd want to make sure that you're having CBD oil or any CBD edibles or anything like that after you've already broken your fast and you're in your eating window. So a little bit of a gray area kind of, but for the most part, fasting safe unless you're doing the oils, then it's a no-go. Kind of a gray area in general though, but for the most part that breaks it down. So I hope that this clears some things up. I know I could give you a lot more. We could talk about this all day long. People could pose questions, and I'm going to encourage you to post in the comment section below things that you have questions about, because I want to build my list up too to make life a little bit easier for those of you that are attempting fasting and are learning some new things as you go. As always, make sure you keep it locked in here on my channel. Make sure you tell your friends, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video.